Hi everybody, Jeff here, and today I want to talk to you about how, well, our system, the parliamentary system, at least the Canadian incarnation of it, makes bad laws. It does. It makes bad laws because no laws can really be challenged, and our politicians are so used to that they really don't try when they're in a perfect position to do that, such as in a minority government. That's why the Liberals teamed up with the NDP, and the NDP said, well, we can then influence the Liberals and get some of our laws passed. Isn't this wonderful? Because federally, the NDP have never had any seat in government. They've never formed government federally. They've formed it provincially a number of times. BC, they're quite successful. Alberta, they formed government once, but that was more due to the splitting on the right, and then the Wild Rose and the PCs out there merged to form the United Conservative Party here in Alberta. Great. And they other places, but they have not formed, not federally. So why do I say that our system makes bad laws? Well, it makes bad laws because in order for a government to work, they need to have they're so used to that they have to be in a majority government situation. Well, what does that mean? It means that they have the most votes of anyone in Parliament. That's it. The most number of seats is with the government. That's it. And with the system where you have to obey the party leader, who in this case would be the prime minister, because the party leader becomes a prime minister automatically. And now you have a situation where, again, that one guy controls all that party, controls their government, in a situation where the opposition can't stop it. And we've seen with the Trudeau government a number of controversial bills go through, and there's nothing that they could do. Our Senate, the Chamber of Sober Second Thought, passed them, made minor changes, but they didn't really bother to stop them. As far as I understand, there's no great hullabaloo. They just whatever, and we have really bad laws, intrusive laws, taking away the rights of the people. This whole censorship apparatus to make sure that you don't say anything that they don't like. Oh, fake news and misinformation, disinformation, that kind of stuff. Oh, yes, we have to fight that. But the problem is that who gets to say and authorize what is and is not correct? And who's to say what if what they're saying is wrong? The Ministry of Truth and all that. Again, 1984 was a warning. It was not a how-to or an aspirational goal, but our government seems to be clumping towards it. So their system makes bad laws because anything the government puts forth, anything, gets passed in its as it is. If they don't want to adopt any changes, there's nothing changed. It gets passed. They're voted for because the government MPs, they have to vote for it, or MLAs on the provincial level, they have to vote for it, or they don't get to run again. And they like have the money and power, influence, and so forth, and being an MP or an MLA, and because they're working towards maybe winning the game, being the prime minister, being the premier. Woohoo! You're set because you have a wonderful pension. So our laws are not challenged. There are no checks and balances. Nothing stops any horrible laws from coming through. You can have an absolute protest, but again, protests, whilst vital, they're not actually checks and balances on power, because you still have to, it comes down to the prime minister or the premier of a province to withdraw that law or change that law. It's up to them. They, the individual, have total power. And that's, again, functionally, because it's actually the king who has the absolute power over the entirety of the Commonwealth. If you're not sure why, then go check out that long form, that video, which is just under an hour. It's pinned to my profile on Twitter, and it's the first video on the YouTube channel, and both exactly the same video. And it's the first one. It's just under an hour, and that explains what Canada is and the problems that we face, and the fact, and outlines, or at least hints at the fact that I have solutions for these. I still need that meeting with the premiers, because we need to fix this, because governments are abusing their authority in a way that they didn't before, and they keep going, and that's because they can, because there's no checks and balances on power. And my fear is that, not that they'll bring in dystopia, but the fact that when they do, and when people realize that that's where we are, it will be civil unrest, because people aren't going to stand for it. Everyone thinks that people are stupid, they're sheep, but they're too busy and distracted with their lives to realize, to fight back at this, to pay much attention at this point, because they don't really think that governments would actually bring in things. Like in Australia, they're bringing in digital ID, where you have to sign in with a verified piece of government identification to prove that you're you when you go on social media, to prove that you're you, so that children can't go on. Well, who's to say they might? So that's so they can know and prove within court you're the one, you the person, are the one who said that thing that they don't like. How do we get to that point? As I said, there are lots of things in this world which piss me off and offend me. You know who cares? Nobody. You know who should care? Nobody. If I get hurt and offended, so what? Hate speech is one thing, but generally speaking, the way to deal with hate speech is for the people to shout down that hate speech. Is not. I mean, I do remember the talk about when the hate speech legislation was brought in the 80s, and it was, well, this will lead us down to censorship. Well, here we are, censorship. Government gets to say what is and is not news, what is and is not correct, what is and is not allowable to say. Whatever happened to freedom of expression? It's gone out the window. Oh, you have the freedom to express yourself, as long as you stay within the confines of what the government allows you to. That's not what it's supposed to be. That's not what freedom is. We've lost that. All in the interest of, quote, keeping you safe and keeping you from being offended. Well, guess what? Be offended. So what? And then let people know you're offended. But again, we have these bad laws in place, and more will come because we do not have any checks and balances in our system. The government can pass whatever the heck they want, and that's that. Nothing to be done about it. And that's not